Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you again for joining us for another episode of EzyToks. So, you know that the previous episodes we have been focusing a lot on the queries and the concerns of farmers who are doing mainly crop. So today we have switched a bit. We are looking at farmers who are into crop husbandry, and specifically poultry. So for the next 1 hour, we are going to be dissecting poultry. If you know you're just starting out in poultry, you know you've been doing poultry and you have a lot of questions that and things have been going well, but not so well, and you have a lot of questions, this is your time to join us, and specifically because EzyAgric and Bukola Chemicals are bringing you some of the experts in the industry, and we shall be dissecting some of the key concerns surrounding poultry and poultry growing. So without going further, let's introduce ourselves, and then you get to know the people who are going to be interacting with you, who are going to be sharing with you their industry knowledge and practice. So today's host, moderator, I'm called Zila Arachmeri. I'm the Chief Product Officer at EzyAgric. And I'm going to allow my two colleagues to introduce themselves.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Bamwine Benjamin. I work with Bukola Vet Pharmacy as a consultant.
Thank you, Benja.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Kauki Paul, working with EzyAgric as a consultant, as a product owner. It's nice to be with you today.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Paul and Benjamin, for joining us for this session. So most of you may not know, but in Uganda, we have more than 50 million birds. 50 million birds, and out of the 50 million, about 30 million are hybrid. So we have majority of people are doing hybrid birds, and we all go into poultry because we want to make money. So we want to make money, want to make a living, want to send our kids to school, doing poultry. And some of us want also to enjoy good meals, yeah? So some of us are supporters and consumers, but we all part of the poultry game. So today we are going to go into the details of what does it take to start a poultry farm? What are the common practices that you need to do as you're starting or maintaining a poultry farm, and going deep into vaccination. Now there's a lot. Some of you know vaccination from COVID. You are from some of your mothers, from babies taking your kids for vaccination. But today we are talking about vaccination of birds. So we had one of the comments coming in from Twitter, and some people are concerned, like, okay, birds are vaccinated, should we eat? So we're going to be addressing all the concerns in this session. So let's start with Dr. Paul. So Dr. Paul, can you tell us, I'm a newbie, I'm new to poultry, yeah? What is poultry farming? What does it take for someone to start a poultry farm? What are some of the best, key practices if someone is starting a poultry farm?
All right. Good evening again. As I said, I'm Dr. Kauki Paul, who has practiced for a year now, and I'm a poultry farmer as well. I think I started practicing poultry when I was in P2. And remember the time that my mom had to whip me in the chicken house for not giving birds water. It gave me a good lesson. And from that time, I loved chicken. Going deep to my love for chicken, the first time that I had to do a leg amputation on the hen became my pet. And the time that reached to slaughter it, I told my mother I wouldn't eat it because it had become part of me. Going to your question of if you knew and you wanted to start up a poultry farm, what does it take? I think one, it takes the love for someone to start loving the business. Then two, one has to know the sources of these birds. the most important is the particular type of business that someone wants to do. Do you want to be a commercial farmer? Do you want to be a breeder? All those work together for a particular person to start up a farm, or even these determine what you require to start up one. If we were to talk about who wants to start up a farm and what do they require, we would go deep into implements, farm tools. We would go to where they have sourced the birds. Are they going to import them? Are they going to get them on the local market? Because we have many breeders, international and local. Then all this will depend on the knowledge of someone and how much do they know their sources.
Okay, so let's first talk briefly about, you said someone needs to determine whether they want to be a breeder or they want to be a commercial farmer. Now, what's the difference? Like, even how do I know who is a breeder and who is a commercial farmer, and what's the difference? And which one, if someone is starting out, which would be the best, the first one that someone should start with?
Those two types of categories that we have here depend on the productivity that someone would want. Breeders, these are individual farmers that have sophisticated genes of birds. These are very improved and they have the ability to replicate. These are F1 types. And when we go to F1s, these are birds that have the potential to give birth to commercials. We have the Ubad, we have the rainbow, the Sussex. Those birds come together to come up with a particular type of commercial area. Then commercials are production birds. Let's say they cannot replicate themselves. Layers can't produce, if they lay eggs, they can't hatch them. Croilers, if you cross a croiler with a croiler, you get an error. That is the F2, which is not needed on the market. A broiler, as long as you keep it for 10 years or 20, yes, it can lay an egg if it's a female, and if it's a cock, yes, it may mate. But what product that comes out is not actually good on the market.
Okay, so thank you, Dr. Paul, for that. Now, crossing over to Benjamin, still on the same topic of starting a poultry farm. I'm new, have my money, and I've saved up some money, so I want to venture into agriculture, and I've been advised to start a poultry farm. How much does it take for someone to start a basic poultry farm? And do I need to have 10 million? Do I need to have 2 million? How much money do I need to start a poultry farm? And adding on to what Dr. Paul was saying, what are some of those key things that I need to put into consideration when I'm starting, if I want to succeed at this at my first venture in farming?
Yeah, thank you. I'm Benjamin. I will say good evening again. Yeah, to start a poultry farm, there are things you will need. As you said, you want to be successful. If you want to be successful, meaning you want profits in what you're doing,
yeah,
you have to put in, and you have their keys you will take, major keys. One, where are you getting your birds? Two, where are you taking them? Where you're taking them is a poultry house, of course.
Okay.
Most farmers have many buildings in their locations. He constructed his or her house. He has a garage, but he hasn't bought any car.
Mm.
He thought, I can do poultry here. And poultry can't do good there.
Mm.
A poultry house has to be ventilated, has to be with enough aeration for the birds to grow well. Feeds, which type of feeds are you buying? You may think you have feeds at home, you have your leftovers, you cook enough food. You think I can do poultry because we throw food. You won't be successful.
So if today, let me say, if we had beans for lunch,
yeah,
and because I don't want to waste, and I kept my beans and went ahead to give part of it to the birds, would that cause any harm?
Yeah, it will cause harm, of course. You cooked your beans with salt. Salt has iodine. And iodine is not good for animals. All animals and birds, they don't use iodine. This iodine salt we use, the table salt, it's already in food you cooked. You're giving it to poultry. It will cause effect. Their joints, you start, my poultry and my birds are dying, my birds are sick, my birds are not working. The salt absorbs water in their body and it accumulates in their joints. You start treating your birds, they are not getting well. You buy every kind of drug. When you say you buy every kind of drug, the poultry is not doing well, they are not getting recovered, but you're feeding every day with salt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So thank you, Benja. So one of the farmers that recently sent in questions through our vet doctor. So Ruth is a farmer in Namgongo. I think recently she got about 1,200 birds. She was very excited. As she had her money, she got her birds. As she put them, she got someone to construct for her house, and she got this 1,200 birds and put them in a room. So but after some time, she realized that 2 birds had died. Then later, I think she lost up to like 40 birds before getting to a professional vet advisor. Now, going to spacing, what would she have considered before bringing her birds in that space? And then also in terms of the feeding, how would she have reduced on her cost of feeding so that her overall expenditure on setting up the farm is not very high?
Well, when you're ready to buy your birds, know the number of birds that will fit in your poultry house. Which type of birds are you going to rear? If they are broilers, the recommended spacing for broilers is not the same as broilers or dual purpose. The dual purpose, you rear, it's the recommended spacing is 4 to 5 birds per square meter. Layers, they need exercises. Okay. You'll put 3 to 4. And broilers, 4 to 6 birds. Okay. So consider your house, and you have a lot of money, but at home, you built a house of 900 birds or 1,000. Okay. Because you have money, you say, I can manage to buy 2,000 birds. You put in one poultry house. What do you expect? Birds will die, but they will suffocate. There is competition for feeds. You'll buy feeds, put them there. In fact, because you don't have enough space, your feeders are scattered. Put feeds here in the one feeder, meaning the first chicken will be first to eat. They again run because they are so fast. You put in another feeder, they again run there. In the end, you say, I bought every day I feed 100 kilograms of feeds, my 2,000 birds. You're making a loss already because you didn't mind or think how many birds will fit in my poultry house. How many feeders do I need for 1,000 birds? How many drinking points do I need in my poultry house? You have to consider that. To seek knowledge, find a technical person, guide you, ask him, I want to rear 1,000 birds. what are the measurements of my poultry house? What do I need?
All right. So thank you, Benja. So everyone who has joined us, thank you for being part of the discussion. So we have just started. You have not missed a lot. We are talking about poultry rearing, and today our major topic of discussion is still vaccination. So we have started with a brief on what is required to set up a successful poultry farm, what are the do's and don'ts to set up a poultry. Now going into our topic of discussion today, which has been, many of you are very familiar about vaccination, but it has even become more prominent because of the times we are in where everyone is trying to be vaccinated. So bringing it to our production life, specifically the farming sector. We all know about vaccination, but we don't know what exactly is vaccination, what is required here, which vaccines are used for certain poultry disease, and do you just can I just keep my vaccine like I keep Panadol for headache? So those are some of the questions you're going to be answering today. You can still join in and share with your friends to join us and be part of the discussion. So going to Dr. Paul, why should I vaccinate my birds?
Well, everyone needs to acquire a vaccine and everyone needs to have an immunity with the body. The biggest reason why someone should vaccinate is you want to avoid disease on your farm, or you want to prevent disease on your farm. Perhaps if there was an outbreak of any disease, you would want to preserve your birds alive. Therefore, vaccination is important because it will boost your animal or your bird's immunity by producing antigens, antibodies that will fight against an invasion of virus. Therefore, if you vaccinate, you rule out very many occurrences of disease outbreak on your farm, in your area, preserving your birds for productivity. When we go to layers, if someone doesn't vaccinate against coccidiosis, you expect no egg.
Okay.
Coccidiosis will affect your birds, will stress the birds, and you have no egg production at particular points. Therefore, your birds will still be eating, but there will be no egg production. Therefore, everybody needs to vaccinate their birds. And this comes at different levels of vaccination. From day one, someone needs to have, birds need to have gotten a vaccine by the breeder or the producer, and then until they reach their final destination at the farm. There are endemic diseases that will occur in areas naturally, and they are everywhere. Some are airborne. So if one doesn't vaccinate, we say Malex.
Okay.
Malex is spread through air instead of saliva. Therefore, your birds are pre-exposed to disease if they're not vaccinated.
Okay. So speaking some of the diseases you mentioned, is it obvious that, let me say, if the breeder delivers my, to say, 1 day old birds, yeah?
Again?
When my birds are delivered to their farm, let me say 1 day old, is it automatically that how do I know that they've been vaccinated prior to delivery? Or should I ignore the fact that they've been either vaccinated or not? I go ahead and vaccinate them when they've arrived at my farm. So how do I know that they've been vaccinated?
Most farmers tend to leave that point out, and the joy or the excitement of having new chicks or new babies usually overwhelms them, and they usually tend to leave whether they get to know whether the birds have been vaccinated. But most service providers or most breeders are entitled, or they have that as a rule, as a must,
okay,
to vaccinate birds day one against Malex and other infectious diseases that they think will be prevailing at certain points of production. And then breeders themselves usually provide vaccination schedules. These are in reflect with the occurrence of diseases on their parental stock. And then also vets come up with vaccination schedules depending on the circumstance of all areas that these birds are going to be destined to. Different areas are attacked by different diseases. Therefore, a local vet would find out the particular diseases that need to be vaccinated. And then particular birds require different types of vaccines. But how do you know? Usually when providers produce these eggs or when they hatch them, they come up with vaccination schedules printed on paper. And once a farmer orders for chicks, they get a vaccination schedule list that shows which type of vaccines have been administered to the birds, day old, or at every stage a farmer gets the birds at. Therefore, farmers follow or need to follow that schedule that has been provided by the breeders.
Okay, so in case you've joined us and you're just starting to farm and you've received your birds without a vaccination schedule, you should be asking your breeder for that schedule, so that you know when you're supposed to vaccinate, what kind of vaccines are required, how do I vaccinate. Now moving over to Benja. So Benja, how are these vaccines administered for the different diseases?
Yeah, thank you. Every vaccine has its route of administration and has its time of administration. There are a number of vaccines needed for poultry. There is a vaccine on day one, that's Malex. There is a vaccine of 1 week, okay. Newcastle. Newcastle, the antigen for Newcastle develops in the body at an early stage of 1 week, okay. From the first day up to 12th day. Meaning you will not vaccinate again since the Newcastle vaccine or the antigen develops in the body at the early stage and others at a later stage, like smallpox and infectious bronchitis, they come later. You will have a vaccination schedule or program. 1 week is Newcastle, 2 week, Newcastle IB, 3rd week, infectious bronchitis, commonly known as Gumboro. Okay. Then Gumboro is given as a second dose on the 4th week. 5th week, you give Newcastle IB. 6th week, you give foulpox. 7th, infectious coryza. And 8th to 12th week, you give fall typhoid.
Okay, so how do you administer this?
The administration, yes. Malex is given subcut on the neck. Subcut is under the skin. Then Newcastle is an eye drop or water, drinking water. Newcastle IB, also an eye drop or drinking water, or even spraying. You mix in water and spray. For spraying, most farmers do mistakes. You mix the whole pump of 20 liters. You have your poultry gathered in the same place. You put the whole 20 liters on 20 birds. That means when you put a 20 liter on 20 birds or even 50 birds, the dosage will be like 2 liters per bird. Okay. That's the common mistake farmers do. They want to make it easier for them. I will say, may I want to put in water I work? I want to put in water I run. It's an injection or a wing web, because he think mixing in water is easier for him or her. He just do that. That's a mistake. You should follow the guidelines, or you read the manufacturer's prescriptions on that vaccine, know where you should administer the vaccine or when. A farmer comes from Gulu, want to buy a vaccine in Kampala. He says, there is another vaccine there after this week. You say, yes. Can you give them to me? I take them at once. The first mistake is on transportation. He's on a border. You help him, give him ice tubes. But he's on a border from here up to Gulu. The ice melts. He has his vaccine. It is supposed to be kept under some temperatures less than 8 degrees. He reaches there, it is on 37 degrees. He went, administered an expired vaccine. It's spoiled already because it is exposed to sun. Well. So that's a good example. And let me say, Gulu is it's a bit far, and I want to transport the vaccines safely to Gulu. How do I? It's about 300 kilometers away from here, and usually very hot that journey. Yes.
So how do I safely transport that vaccine from here to Gulu without it being expired?
There are vaccine carriers, but most farmers don't have them because they may think they are expensive. We use our flasks. Our flasks can transport vaccines. These flasks we use for chai. We local people, we think flask carries only hot things. It takes our chai, hot chai, or water. But it can be used to carry your ice. It will take you for like 3 days if you have enough ice tubes. It can take you for 3 days. Carry your flask, go buy your vaccine, they pack for you,